A warm good afternoon to everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Renuka Maithil, the editor of Forbes Africa, and we are here today for a virtual panel discussion with the cover stars of the April issue of Forbes Africa. I've got the April issue in my hands. I got out to get a copy from the Woolworth store in Johannesburg. So this is available now. It's also available digitally. So please grab a copy. So I've got all the cover stars joining us today. And this is the 6th annual list that we've come out with. And it's the most coveted list in Africa with, 30 of Africa's brightest entrepreneurs, not just entrepreneurs, leaders from sport, from technology, from business and arts featuring on the list. And this year, we're very proud to have 30 of the best from Africa. Normally what we do is we have our own events, and it would have been great to have got all of you in a room, but in reflection of the times that we're in, this has to be a virtual conference, and there's no better people than you to talk about the future that we're headed towards in light of the COVID crisis. So I'd like to extend a warm welcome to you all once again. Surely you're a very diverse mix of entrepreneurs from 4 African countries. But before I begin, I would like to thank the sponsors that we have. Thank you to Curtin University, Dubai, and Lancaster University, Ghana, for supporting today's event. Both universities are currently ranked amongst the top in the world and are currently pioneering innovation in opportunities and education with the delivery of programs, especially through online methods during COVID-19. So I have on this panel today, Paul Makaya from Zimbabwe, Shamim Nabuma from Uganda, Kitumatsi Kwari from South Africa, and Thobo Katola from Botswana. So I'd just like to add that the audience can also send in their questions during the session. Most probably I'll take them on at the fag end of the session, but please use the hashtag U30 Africa Live to send us your questions. So we're going to be talking about how leadership and management can cope in times of crisis, and this is how we can navigate the new normal and the unprecedented social predicament that we are in today as we face the great unknown and the great uncertainties of the future. So I'm going to start with you, Paul Makaya. He's the 26-year-old CEO and founder of the Bagast House in Zimbabwe. He's into digital marketing, and he offers communication strategies to some of Zimbabwe's top corporate companies. Paul, welcome to this panel. Zimbabwe is in a 21-day lockdown as we speak, and I'm sure remote working is what you're doing right now. But you must be so used to that space. You're into digital marketing. You must be very familiar with the digital space. But how have you managed to get your employees tagging along? What are the new skill sets that you've had to get them to deploy at this point? And what is the learning curve been for you during this lockdown period? And what are you looking forward to in the months ahead? Paul, you need to unmute. You need to unmute. We can't hear you.
Thank you very much, Renuka. Quite a long list of questions, but
there's more.
I'll start with the first one, which is how are we coping and what have we done as Bagast House in Zimbabwe to kind of continue with our workflow and continue with servicing our clients. So firstly, we are a bit advantaged because we're a really young and dynamic team that already understands the digital space. So that has allowed us to quickly adapt to the trends and be able to work from home. So what we've done is to quickly adapt our systems and processes to work online. So the moment that as the Zimbabwean lockdown was announced, we logged on to our CRM, which works online. We gave everyone the processes and how they should work online. We now host our morning diaries online on WhatsApp. We now host meetings with clients on Zoom. So things like that, those small things have allowed us to continuously service our clients online. And then
Right.
Yes.
So it's been an easy transition for you. I mean, not like other businesses that have had to completely look at the digital space with new eyes.
Yes, for us, it's been pretty easy. There is some difficulty, mainly in terms of managing talent across on the internet, because for example, the turnaround times might become slower because
Mhm.
communication online is easy, but it's also difficult. It's unlike when you have a person physically there and you can see the work and you can instruct direction. Online, it's a bit difficult, but I think it's a learning curve. I think it's the future, and we should embrace it.
No, I mean, you've talked about augmenting the structures that you have in place, to brace for the new reality going forward. But what about, leadership at your level? I mean, how do you keep up the morale of the employees? I mean, what's a constant communication strategy that you have with them right now? And what do you think is important at this time in keeping the morale up?
Mhm. So I think the most important thing is to continue to give reassurance to the team that
Hmm.
everything is going to continue the same. And I think also the continuation of work is a big morale booster. Unlike
Yeah.
imagine we would just stop and say we don't know, we'll just see after the lockdown. So I think
Mm.
the continuation in itself is a big morale booster to the team. You say, hey, we're continuing our work. These are the tasks at hand. Let's continue doing the work. I think that's a critical part, and also maintaining the traditions and the culture in the team, but online is a big factor as well. So if you were going to celebrate birthdays, for example, at the office, continue doing that online. It's going to be
Yes.
difficult, but there are things that you can do to make it exciting, to maintain the culture within the organization.
So, in a way, I feel that the COVID-19 crisis has sort of fast tracked the gig economy. We were already heading there and we were already in it, but we've sort of hastened the process now. But I just wanted to ask you, I mean, you do a lot of communication strategies for some of the top corporate companies in Zimbabwe. How has that messaging itself changed? Do you see some new opportunity emerging here? I mean, or have you actually run out of business? I mean, I'm sure there must be new campaigns and new opportunities to
Uh,
send out some fresh messages into the world.
yeah. For us, I think it's a blessing in disguise. It's a very sad moment to say this, but because we are strategically positioned as a digital agency, we all the communication is happening via digital platforms. So unlike previous times where a client wanted to communicate, they would print posters, pull up a billboard. Vendors for such industries are actually closed in my country because they are not essential services. So that has led organizations and corporates having to communicate internally and externally via digital platforms. So for us, we have currently seen a spike in the workload that we are currently struggling to maintain because we're currently having to structure and craft messaging for our clients to talk about the COVID-19
Mm,
pandemic with their customers online, to communicate safety precautions with their internal staff, how to keep safe, how
right.
the symptoms, etc. So we have been having to structure tailor-made communication plans for each and every client to speak to internal staff and to speak to their clients as well.
So before I move on to Shamim, the next panelist, I just have one question which you can answer fairly briefly. Is, in a country like Zimbabwe that's already rife with unemployment, poverty, lack of electricity, digital access, don't you think a crisis like this is going to drive inequality some more? I mean, it's, I mean, it's a different thing where I'm sitting in my home with a pretty garden, and for a person in quarantine in a crowded settlement, crowded, cramped settlement, the reality is something else. So what
Mm.
really is the situation on the ground? If you can just say it very briefly.
So, firstly, I'd like to say Zimbabweans are people with a lot of resolve. You might imagine that the amount of stuff we've gone through, but we continue to innovate. And I think such environments breed innovation. So you
Yes.
see, we have entrepreneurs now selling their wares online, deliveries via a
Mhm.
person orders online and then it's delivered to a person's house. So it's been a really tough time, but it has also bred a lot of innovation within our communities. And obviously, there is a challenge where in high density areas, it's really difficult to execute social distance, for example. And
Sure.
those are some of the difficulties that are inherent within our society. But I think because of our ingenuity and our resolve, the Zimbabwean population has managed to really push forward. And I also think that the low number of the cases of COVID in the country have assisted us to build up systems in this meantime to kind of rectify some issues that we're currently facing.
Okay, great. So from Zimbabwe, now we go to Kampala, Uganda, where Shamim Nabuma is sitting. Now, Shamim is a 24-year-old founder and executive director of the Shill Artificial Intelligence Lab. Her field is medicine, and she uses tech and AI for cancer screening of women in Uganda's remote villages. Very impactful work, Shamim. So Uganda is also in a 14-day lockdown right now, and you have an entire network of doctors and laboratories, and you deliver automated consultation and diagnosis in oncology. Now, in the current situation, are you still able to do this? I know you operate a fleet of 25 drones that you use to transport and deliver medicines deep in Uganda's rural villages. But how has the situation changed right now? Shamim?
Yes, thank you so much. The situation right now, everything is down, and everyone is saying lockdown, lockdown, lockdown. But every business is being affected. For us, for providing the oncology services, that's the cancer screening services to the rural women, again, we are affected because instead of someone ordering for the medicine for the next phase, they instead buy food to keep in their homes because they're not allowing people to move. So what we are doing for this time, since right now there is the COVID-19, again, there is chatbot that allows automated consultation. So this one informs you of these symptoms. Are you coughing? Are you sneezing? Do you have headache and all that? So this can link you to a doctor or someone in the hospital so that they can help you. But right now, we are trying to find out which areas in Uganda have a very big effect. And that is where the first help has to go to, and then find out what to do next.
Shamim, your line is unfortunately still not very clear. So I'll have to come to you. Yeah, so I'll ask you another brief question and then we'll come back to you if possible at a later time. But I'll definitely ask you this. I mean, from cancer to COVID-19, how are you now using some of your medical infrastructure to support COVID-19? I know there are not many cases in Uganda, but there could be. But how are you potentially thinking of using the infrastructure that you already have to help the hospitals in need, patients in need in the future?
Okay, as right now, COVID-19, we are supposed to stay home, keep isolating away from each other, avoid contact with one another. So this is a time where technology has to come in, or the use of internet businesses, whereby, for example, if there is automated consultation and they just link to the hospital, we have the drones, but we have to work together with the Ministry of Health,
right,
so that we can give them, so that they can be able to transport the specimen to the Virus Research Institute, where they can carry out all these tests and know which people are positive and which people are negative. So with this, we have to work in our country. It's usually the government that does that. So it partners with the different companies so that they can help people to save their lives. So I believe these drones are able to transport, and even a bit of that automated consultation. We are trying to reduce the interaction between the doctors and then the people.
So Shabib, just one basic question. Now, in the remote parts of Uganda where you don't have power, where most people don't have access to data, how are you planning to use technology? I mean, are you thinking about maybe solar power, capitalizing on the African sun?
Wow. When you talk about the rural areas, these are people like they don't have the data as you said, and maybe all that. But there is an offline version that allows people to get that information. And even there is a dial version whereby someone has to just call, and then when they call, they ask them some questions, and then they're referred to where they're supposed to go. So in every condition, there has to be that difficulty. But again, you have to look for a solution to cover that
Yes.
up, because we're entrepreneurs and we have to find solutions for the different problems in the community.
That's great, Shamim. I'm going to come back to you later once I'm done with all the other panelists. Now from
Okay.
Uganda, we're moving to Botswana. Hi, Thobo Katola. He's a 28-year-old MD and founder of Lion Tutoring. It was a lack of finding good employment, being able to find good employment rather, that made him take to entrepreneurship. And he started operating from the boot of his car in his parents' home. Is that correct, Thobo?
Yes, that's correct,
Yes.
Renuka. First of all, thanks very much for having me
Thobo,
on the show.
I haven't asked you your question as yet, so please let me ask you the question. So Thobo, you're in Botswana and it's in the 28-day lockdown period. You're in the education technology space, both in Botswana and in South Africa. And you call Lion Tutoring the Uber for tutors. Now that's very interesting. Can you tell us a little more about it? And how, more importantly, how have your revenues possibly come down or have been affected in the current situation? As I understand, you have students, you have tutors. Is there more scope for homeschooling at this point, or have you actually seen your business suffer in some way?
Oh yes, thanks very much, Renuka. Like I was saying, thank you very much for having me on the panel.
Most welcome.
And yes, obviously we've been affected by the coronavirus, the COVID-19. As you know, we're on a 28-day lockdown this side, and obviously it's really affected our income streams. We've seen a lot of students being pulled out, not only from schools, but even from our tutoring company. But this has sort of opened the opportunity for us to exploit the online tutoring, the online learning. And we're actually just now starting to get a lot of students, not just in Botswana and South Africa, but we're getting students as far as, the Northern African markets. We have some students from Canada, we have some from Australia. And, it's just through technology that we're able to, mitigate the effect of the COVID-19.
Okay. So how many tutors do you operate with, and how do you connect the students with the tutors? Can you just tell us a little bit about why you call it the Uber for tutors?
Okay, so first of all, our concept started with, tutors going to the students' homes and then students coming to our centers. So over time, we actually just got a technology where we have a mobile app. So on our mobile app, the students sort of selects tutors in that area. They select the subjects that they would like to be tutored in. And then by so doing, it will show you maybe the top 10 rated tutors in your location. And then obviously you'll just look into their resume, their qualifications, their years of experience. And then once you're happy with that tutor, you just book the tutor, you pay online, and we send the tutor to the student's home. But now that obviously now we can't have the tutor going to the student's home, the client can still pay on our application, but then the lesson would have to be now conducted over Skype or through Zoom. And, we're exploiting a lot of online platforms that can allow us to conduct the lesson without the tutor going to the student's home.
So have the number of students come down during this period? And obviously if that has happened, then that means there's a number of tutors without jobs at the moment.
Yes, the number of students did come down, but as much as the announcement of the coronavirus, we started, channeling our business to the online streams. So at the beginning of the month of March, we had almost 1,000 students. We had 900 and something students, and then
how many is
really
it now?
drastic. Right now we're just at just a little bit above 500 students, but that are doing
Okay.
online tutoring. Yes, yes. So with the shutdown of the schools, it's obviously declined our business. But immediately that happened, we started alerting our clients to know that they can continue their tutorials at the comfort of their homes. And the only challenge that we're facing now is to educate the customer, to educate the consumer on how to, buy data bundles, how to connect internet, how to get a Skype account. But now we can see the numbers, slowly rising. So I think just now we're just a bit above 500 students, but at least by next week we expect to be back to where we were.
That's great. I mean, so when I spoke to you in my brief chat yesterday, you said that this chaos, the COVID-19 chaos, is actually a silver lining for your business, and the virus has actually helped you to reach out to new markets beyond Africa. So you mentioned Canada just now, but how are you going to verify the tutors in Canada and the students? How is that going to work?
Yes. So the way we've been working, Renuka, is we've been partnering with recruitment agencies in the countries that we're operating in. In Botswana, it's a little bit, because our population is really low and it's easy for you to just go and get a police clearance or do a quick research, a background check. But in bigger markets like South Africa, we had to partner with companies like MIE, Peanut, where they actually do the vetting process for us. So they go through the sexual offenders registry, they verify the qualifications of the tutor, they do a police clearance check. So once all of that has been done, it's now easy for us to sort of send our tutors. It's easy for us to sort of have reputation on the tutors. So even with the other countries like Canada, like we've had our first student from Canada, and we have a few from Australia and other intercontinental countries. We partner with the local recruitment agencies.
That's fantastic.
But for now, it's actually much better now because we have our tutors working from Botswana. So you'll find even in the countries that are abroad, as long as the client just lets us know the syllabus of the student, our tutors are actual teachers. So with given any syllabus, given any curriculum, they're able to adjust and assist the student in that front. So we've had a lot of clients who actually prefer to have Botswana tutors running the lesson online.
So Botswana tutors in Canada as well. So Botswana is not just going to be known for beef and diamonds, it will be known for education technology. And you did say that you're the diamonds and new diamonds of Botswana when I spoke to you yesterday. You still hold that view? Yes. Okay, all right. Before I move on to Kitumatsi, I have to remind the audience that they can still ask questions using the hashtag U30 Africa Live. So I'm now moving closer home to South Africa, to Kitumatsi Kwadi. Now she's our next under 30 panelist. She's a writer, she's a director, she's a producer. She has straddled all creative formats from short films to music videos to documentaries and now big budget commercial films. So Kitumatsi, we're in the 12th day of the 21-day lockdown in South Africa. And for most of us, like me, I rely a lot on entertainment, especially Netflix. And for me, it's escapism from the bad headlines all around me. So for me, the world of entertainment is really my alternative reality. And that's pretty much what a lot of people think around the world. So you actually keep us going. You guys keep us going. But in the current state, as things stand, no shoots are happening. All filmmaking has been canceled. You guys are all sitting at home. Now there's a lot of, there's crew, there's cast, there's makeup artists, there's all these freelance stakeholders in your industry sitting at home, possibly doing post-production work, but then all filmmaking is canceled. I'm just a little worried that content will soon run out on my entertainment screens. So tell us, Kitumatsi, how are you reacting to this this environment? The entertainment industry is a billion-dollar industry and is very important for all of us. But how have you taken it personally?
Yes, it's been quite a dramatic and really crippling hit on the entertainment industry, and especially the film industry, because essentially once we shoot, we are manual laborers. So we need to be on the ground, we need to be engaging with each other. But there's different stages in film, and some of those stages are still able to function quite easily and still able to continue. Stages like development, and there's a lot of production companies, a lot of government houses that are opening briefs for writers and directors to start submitting for development funding. So that's still moving along. Then when it comes to post-production, that's after we've shot. That's still continuing because we've already got all the footage. This past 2 weeks, week and a half, I've been working throughout. I've been doing grade approvals. I've been doing remote audio, sound, music. I've been pitching. So the back end and the front end of the industry is still moving on. It's just the part that actually makes things happen, the production element, that is at standstill. However, there has been very recently an interest from brands to explore what it would look like for us to actually shoot. And there have been a few productions that have shot remotely. The first one, a director was speaking to me. He shot his first production remotely this week. And it seems like a great idea, but practically it's still quite challenging because that means everybody has to have fast internet. The approvals need to work out quicker. The team that you're working with needs to be really, really skilled technically. And it's new and a bit of a scary space for all of us. But the thing about filmmakers is that we're first and foremost artists. So we're always inclusive and we're always willing to try out something new.
So I'm just going to go back to my question again, Kitumatsi. The fact is a lot of people are unemployed because of the lockdown. And these are people who depend on the industry for their daily income. I mean, you're still at the higher end of the spectrum, but what about the daily wage earners? I mean, what's the kind of recipe we have for them if this lockdown continues?
Yeah, it's definitely the most challenging for the majority of the industry, and the majority of the industry is the crew. How our industry works is that we get paid for the jobs that we do. The government has put out a couple of grants and loans for filmmakers, but some of the requirements means that majority of the filmmakers that actually need the money can't access the money. So the requirements are the shoot actually has to have been cancelled. And most of the production companies are not cancelling the shoots, they're postponing the shoots. And the time window for these relief funding that the government has set out is so tiny. The one was put out last week and it ended on Monday. That's not enough time for a freelancer to gather their paperwork, to find the producers, to go through that line, that chain of command, and to submit and say, this is what I'm owed, this is what it's going to look like for me if I don't get money. So honestly, it's very scary for majority of the industry. They're sitting at home,
especially.
And I think a lot of people are afraid about what it's going to look like, especially if this continues for another month.
And surely there must be supply keeping up with the demand, because there's a lot of demand for entertainment now. I just want to go back, touch on the fact that you do also work for big budget commercial films, and this includes advertising as well. So what does a corporate take on this? Have they canceled a lot of these advertisements? Are they going into more, what we can call emotive advertising campaigns at this point? Are they getting more creative?
The industry is trying very hard to find ways of being creative. There have been a couple of briefs put out to us as creatives to find innovative ways of continuing to create and to produce content. The biggest thing is the money. When it comes down to money, there's always a sense of fear of losing money. So a lot of the insurance companies aren't willing to cover anything where there's the likelihood that somebody could get the COVID-19. So that's completely gone out the window. then the other kind of like big industry players are the ones that are exploring this whole remote directing, remote production shooting, where you get your own actors and you get your own talent to create the production by themselves, and then we can still cut it in post-production. But a lot of the advertising agencies are kind of using footage that already exists to create a story and to create an emotive story. And that's what everyone is leading with. I'm very
so emotive.
Yeah, emotive is what everybody's leading with. I am very interested to see what it looks like afterwards, because the language of advertising completely has to change now. A lot of the briefs that just on the topic of emotive language in advertising, a lot of the briefs that we've had over the years speak to the power of touch, speak to the power of engagement, speak to the idea that care is about intimacy, it's about connecting with people.
Absolutely, and I think going forward, that is going to be the norm. I'm just going to go to Shamim. Shamim, are you okay? You know, in Kampala. Shamim, the next set of questions I'm going to have for the panel will be about obviously how the landscape of business has changed. And what are corporations? So what kind of support do you think the public sector, the private sector is going to give you at this point? What is the buzz that you're getting on the ground? Is there some kind of relief being extended to small businesses such as yours? I mean, Shamim, tell us, is there some kind of serious funding that's being considered? What is the buzz on the ground?
Thank you so much. What I think about this is when you look at such a situation, that we are in, the bit of the COVID-19 and what we are doing, so there is a bit of people having to come up and coming to say, we have to fight this COVID-19. Because basically our businesses, what we are doing right now is we are tackling people who are having these cancers and they're in villages and all that. But remember, their immunities are low. So what I believe in, the governments and then the public institutions, they all have to come up and give their say about something. And if it's about the funding, maybe come and say, we are giving in this, maybe you're giving in the ventilators and PPEs for this kind of people so that you can save the lives of these people. Because remember, if these people are not safe during these times, we are not sure when COVID-19 is going to end. So I believe it's a contribution between both the private and then the public sector.
Private and public sector. Tobo, in Botswana, what is it? Do you see an increased participation from the government in terms of relieving the hardships that you're going through right now? Small business, informal, entrepreneurs. What is the kind of collaborative economy that you see happening going forward?
Yes, well, from Botswana, we're seeing an increased participation between the public and the private sector. Just a few days ago, the government has actually extended out to say banks can be loaning businesses, whether SMMEs or bigger businesses, bank guaranteed loans. So basically for an SMME like myself, I would have to just go to the bank and go with a letter from the government to say whatever loan that I'll be getting from the bank, here's a security backed up by the government. So it makes it so easier for small businesses and bigger businesses to be able to, it's sort of to cushion, the economical effect of the COVID-19. And then also from the private sector, we've seen quite a few number of bigger businesses reaching out to, we have a fund this side, a COVID-19 fund. So we had big businesses, putting in funds into it, similar to what happened in South Africa, where you've had a few billions coming through from the Oppenheimers, from the Motsepe Fund. We've had something similar also from our side. And we've seen even the local networks, you know, they've made data more affordable. It works a lot for somebody like myself, because we are connecting tutors and students through an online platform, which, you know, for both sides or for both ends, they should be able to afford the data, and they're supposed to have faster internet. So we've had fiber being connected, you know, and the mobile networks have actually slashed the rates by half. So you'd find that if you were to get a gigabyte or a gigabyte of bundle, you'd get it at half the price that you'd usually get it.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much, Tobo. I'm looking for Paul. I can't find him, but I will come to you, Kitumatsi. Surely consumer behavior is what is going to change, whether it's entertainment, or whether it's the way you shop, you eat, you live. So what do you think? You mentioned earlier about the relief measures being afforded to the entertainment industry, but do you think that's really sustainable, long-term? I mean, what is this? We don't know what, you know, the great unknown is before us. How long is this going to last? What do you think in real terms is a solution for an extended lockdown to the entertainment industry?
Yeah, the relief funding that the government has put out is, the relief funding that the government has put out is a temporary solution. And the reality is that this is a quite unprecedented thing that's happened to the whole world. So everyone is scrambling to find solutions, but this is going to have long-lasting effects on the industry. I don't think a relief funding is the best solution for us. I think somehow we need to find a way of, if the lockdown is extended, finding a way for us trying to shoot in some way or another, limiting the sets. We usually have closed set for private or intimate shooting scenes where we only have the people that matter the most, which is the skeleton crew. And if that's the way that we need to go to continue to deliver with the content that people are asking for, that is one solution. There is a show I watched today. It's actually a reality show. And what they do is, like most of us, we shoot our content sometimes a month ahead, sometimes a year ahead. So that's why for some production companies, it's not the worst thing that can happen. It just means once lockdown is over, everybody needs to get back on set and shooting quickly. But what this show did was that it combined the footage that they'd shot with interview footage that the cast shot themselves at home with their own cell phones. So there's definitely going to be a shift for independent filmmaking from the crew. How we bring that all together in a way, in a standard that's acceptable, because as audiences across the world, we've also come to expect a certain standard of quality we watch. However, COVID is going to take that away. If we aren't able to shoot how we've done in the past, it does mean something is going to get affected. And I do think the quality of the picture, the quality of the stories could definitely get affected. But I do see a shift in the narrative. I think we've always been interested in alternative realities. We've always been very voyeuristic as audiences. So opening ourselves up to an alternative kind of filmmaking or storytelling where us as individuals around the world let audiences into our homes, to our doorsteps, there is a possibility for that as well.
Well, actually, from the looks of it, we've all let the whole world come into our homes. I mean, we're all working from home. I'm going to have, Paul, I don't see you on the screen, but I'm going to let you have. Paul, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Paul, you've talked about rebranding Africa now in the current crisis. How are you going to start from scratch? I mean, how is this going to affect the new African economy? What are you going to do as a young person?
I'm a very optimistic person, and I think this crisis, like Tobo said, has a silver lining, which for me, I think Africa, this is an opportunity for Africa to leapfrog other countries in terms of our economies, because we have a huge population of young people who are tech savvy, who we have, I think here in Zimbabwe, the largest mobile penetration rates. So we have more people using phones than some parts of the world here. So I think it's a big opportunity for us to leapfrog through mobile money, through a lot of innovations, and create wealth for the African continent.
Well,
And
yes.
and as for us as Begastas, our job is to partner such businesses and get them out there to tell their stories to the rest of the world, to get them to market their products all across the continent and help them have sales, make more sales. So that's our role as Begastas, to partner with such organizations and make them famous for lack of a better word. Yeah.
So new partnerships, new collaborations, but whatever the solutions, the game plan clearly for mankind's future and very existence needs to be a combination of good business acumen and some good old-fashioned humanity. And this is not just a public health crisis, but a humanitarian crisis, an economic crisis. I really hope today's discussion has thrown light on some of these issues. Thank you all for joining. A big thank you to our sponsors once again. That's Curtin University, Dubai, and Lancaster University, Ghana. Surely we are entering a new world for business, one where the past is not a guide, only the present is. Many businesses will be shut. Many will recalibrate their business models, and this will call for some truly radical skill sets. But for all the talk about robotics, for all the talk about 4IR, I firmly believe that there could be a more human model emerging from all of this. It could be about empathy, it could be about listening. And one of the things that we've always proudly done at Forbes Africa is bringing the human story, the human touch, talking about people behind the businesses, people running these businesses. And I feel in the immediate future, emotions will play a big role in driving business behavior. And surely there'll be many, many stories emerging from this current crisis that we'll continue to report on, that we'll continue to record for posterity as we all together face the great unknown before us. And on behalf of my entire virtual team at Forbes Africa and the management of Forbes Africa, this is Renuka Methul signing off in Johannesburg. Please, please stay safe, keep well, and see you soon.